recorded live from Studio 12A in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. You're listening to the Josh and Friends Podcast.
Good morning, Vietnam! Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends Podcast. I am your host. My name is Josh. And this week, I have a very special guest returning back to the show. Not only was this man the first one to get me into bands like the Beatles and the Stones, but he was also with me when I bought my first record, and he took me to my first concert, and he was also the one who got me on the radio way back in 1987. Yeah. And he is back today to discuss some of the music from the past and some events that happened way back in the day during the Vietnam era. So please give me a warm welcome for my dad and my hero, the one and only Mr. Lee Matlock. All right, Dad, welcome back.
Good to be home.
Good seeing you here. So, hey, Dad, how is Washington right now? How's it going?
You mean as far as our weather?
Sure.
Yeah, it's kind of cloudy, and just like we like it.
Yeah.
It rained today and yesterday, and probably will rain tomorrow.
Awesome. How's Mom doing?
Mom's always doing well.
Good. She's momming around?
She's momming around, yeah. She's cooking dinner.
Nice. Right on. Well, hey, I wanted to have you back on the show because there was a lot that we packed into your first episode, and we skimmed over a bunch of topics. And one of the most important and interesting segments that we had was the discussion of Vietnam. And so I kind of wanted to go a little bit more over that era, a little bit more in depth, and we kind of want to get into the music, obviously. But first, I wanted to go a little bit back to your childhood, and I wanted to just, I wanted to know who was ultimately responsible for getting you into music originally, because it's a huge part of, you and your life, always introducing everybody else into, whatever bands or music, and of course myself. But who's the first one to get you into music?
I gotta say it was my dad.
Really? Okay. Mm-hmm. Mr. Jim Matlock.
Yeah, he was a great dancer, country western dancer. Well, actually he could do 40s music, big band, stuff like that. He was really good at it. And, he always had records at home, which is sometimes unusual for parents to have their records out and playing them all day long. And
wow.
So yeah, I was, I learned a lot of things, Roy Orbison and Jim Reeves and a lot of records like that. They loved it. And so they used to play those all the time.
Wow. Interesting. Right on. So now, do you remember where you were when you first saw like Elvis or the Beatles on Ed Sullivan?
On Ed Sullivan? Do I remember where I was?
Yeah.
God, no, it was at 62 or something. But I do remember having a chance to see the Beatles. They came to Las Vegas in like 1963 or something, and I was like 14 or something. And they were at the convention center, and I went down there to see if maybe I could go see them. And the line was like a mile long, right? I said, man. Well, I guess I'm not going to be doing this.
Oh.
And so, I had a chance to see him. I just never did.
Oh, that sucks. Right on.
And Elvis, I never really saw him either, except, on Ed Sullivan or some special that he would have, like Hawaii and things like that. But I liked Elvis.
Yeah. The comeback, the 68 comeback was pretty big.
That was good. Yeah. It was kind of acoustic,
Right.
Yeah.
So you were, it looks like, so in 64, that's when the Beatles I think they appeared on Ed Sullivan. You were 13.
Yeah.
And was that a bit like, when you saw that, because like 13, you could remember 13. I mean, 13's like a kind of a It's not like you're 5 years old or anything like that, you know?
I thought he was crazy, man. The way he moved around on stage, it was like, holy crap. He was like, with the hips, and they would always film him above the hips,
Yeah, Elvis, yeah.
some kind of a.
But do you remember seeing like the Beatles, like when they were on Ed Sullivan?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember like who were you there with, like your sisters and stuff like that, or who's there with you? Like were they like going like, "Ooh, these guys like this
in the room?" You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was in like Idaho someplace, and I was watching them, and of course, they played "I Want to Hold Your Hand," and I saw her standing there, and I had to have those records. I had to have them. I had a girlfriend, I was like 12 or something, and was in love with some other 12-year-old girl, and I had to have those 2 records.
Wow. Now, was your mom into music at all, or was it primarily your dad?
There again, my mom, big dancer. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In fact, I think that's where they met, is on the dance floor down when he was in the Navy, and she was I don't know what you call them. They call them Puget Sound Debs up here, but
Oh wow.
But yeah, hanging out at the dance halls with the Navy guys, and so yeah, they were cutting a rug down there doing big band music and stuff.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, was your brother Dan? Was he like into music as much as you?
Yeah, Dan loved music too. He loved.
Yeah.
He liked. God, what was that band? Man, my mind is blank right now. But Sherry Baby. Who sang that?
Oh, the Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
The Four Seasons. Yeah, he loved those guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was just into music. He still is. We talk about it all the time.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So I always think of like what it must have been like to witness the evolution of pop music, rock music over the decades, and you got to, your generation, you got to witness literally like every single era of the genre. I mean, because the pop music era is essentially 1955 to present, and you were born in 1950, so literally,
Jerry Lee Lewis, Chuck Berry, all of those guys, Buddy Holly, saw them all. And I mean, I didn't personally, but I mean, these guys were the guys that we started to hear, and the Beatles and Elvis and all this kind of stuff just kept going. And I think personally that the best music that was ever made was in the 60s and the 70s.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, you got the Stones, you have, Zeppelin, it's amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even in the late 70s had, Van Halen's first album, which was amazing. And, it's just awesome. Cause I always think about that. Cause like you literally got to see like now, people that are, my age or younger,
mm-hmm.
they have the ability to look back at all that stuff, but it's a lot different when those bands are coming out. So like, when the new Beatles album was coming out, I mean, that had to have been like an event,
You had to have it. Everybody had to have it.
Right. Like Sgt. Pepper. I couldn't even imagine hearing that. It's hard to explain that, by the way. I always try to explain these kind of scenarios during this show, but it's hard to, you always have to, when you're trying to explain music, it's all has to be in context, because the music that was coming out, it was, there was the other bands weren't like the Beatles. The Beatles were the innovators. So like they borrowed from other bands and stuff like that.
Of course, that had to be, you got to give a lot of credit to the producer.
George Martin. Yeah,
absolutely. Sir George.
Yeah, exactly.
The guy had ideas. It was just amazing.
Yeah. And they were willing to, experiment with.
Yeah. They went along with what he said, because whatever he did for them made them even more popular every time they put a record out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. So, so I just always think about that. It's just fascinating, because you don't usually think about the fact that every single genre that came out, you got to experience, like punk and new wave and disco and,
So did you when you were growing up? You remember sitting in front of the Kirby vacuum cleaner with a yardstick up in it, and that was your microphone.
I mean, I don't
In front of
remember it,
my,
but I've seen the picture.
standing in front of my reel-to-reel.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're playing like the air guitar, you know, I don't know, they had a little plastic guitar, and you just picked right up.
I had a fly swatter as my guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So now, how old were you again when you joined the Marines? It was
I was 18.
18?
18. Yeah.
Okay. So that was 69. You said it was like 69ish?
Yeah, because I wasn't 19 yet because, I was born in December. So it was, I joined the Marines in May of 69.
Gotcha. Okay. So going to Vietnam, do you remember, did you know anything about the country of Vietnam before?
Absolutely nothing.
That's what I keep seeing these documentaries, and that's everyone keeps saying that. They're like, I had no idea. I didn't even know where Vietnam was on a map. I knew nothing about the culture or the people, nothing. I knew nothing about the politics or anything like that. I just knew that we were going to Vietnam.
Yeah. I mean, I knew there was a lot of politics going on. I mean, I had quite a bit of time before I went to Vietnam. I was in like Washington, D.C. when they lined up all the buses and they had all those, some call them protests, some call them riots. And I watched all of that from like a 8th floor hotel. They didn't want us to mess around and get into that. So we just stayed, up in the hotel and watched it all taking place. And then they sent me to Barstow, California for my first job. And I was a surveyor. I'd go up to Big Bear Mountain in California every day and survey. And I thought after about a year and a half, I said, I think they forgot about me. I don't, I'm never going to see any action at all. And I kept putting in for it. I volunteered to go because I didn't join the Marine Corps to not be in a combat zone.
Right.
So
crazy.
They tried to put me in the band, because I played drums and all. I said, no, I want to go to Vietnam and want to be where my brothers are.
Wow. And
I can remember flying into the airport. Actually, it was an air base, Benoit. And when we got over, they go, we're in Vietnam airspace. I mean, everybody in the plane, because nobody had been there before, were freaking out. Like, oh God, I hope they don't shoot up in the bottom of the plane and, shoot us down. Well,
jeez.
That was a far from happening thing, where you'd get off of the plane, it was pitch black, and you'd run off the tarmac because you thought they were going to rocket the plane, and it was none of that happened.
Wow.
So it was weird. But after 3 days, they had the biggest rocket attack on Benoit in the history of the Air Force, in any base in the Air Force. They had like 160 rockets come in. And that was just really letting the Marines know that, yeah, we know you're here. Welcome to Vietnam, Wow. So we spent the third day in the ditch, it was crazy. Wow. Nothing like having the sky rain down 120 pound bombs.
So when you first got there, you arrived at night?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
we went to the Philippines, we went to Guam,
uh-huh.
and then we went to Vietnam. It was just kind of, you stopped to fuel up,
Oh, wow. So what was your first impression of the country or the area in general?
Hot, damn hot, real hot.
Yeah,
as Robin would say.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I've seen, and again, I'm just going back to all these documentaries because I'm fascinated. This war is so complex and there's so much stuff that went on. And actually it's, one of the first wars that was on the news every night, right?
Right.
So,
every night.
Yeah. So, but I watch all these documentaries and I've seen a couple of guys that are like, the first thing that I remembered was how beautiful it was.
Uh-huh. It is a pretty country. Yeah, it really is. Especially down south where the beaches are.
Right. Yeah. And they're like, this is a place that you would normally go on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, we're going to kill people or, you just fight this battle and it's weird. But you have a job to do. I mean, you're in the military.
Yeah, and the job was, it was wrong and they knew it. you know, but we didn't know. We just did what we were told. So,
Yeah.
but the politicians, as any war, it just seems like they get them started, but there's no way that they're going to get involved in it. They got troops, and they just send the troops and use them up. I don't know.
It's just sucks. Yeah. But now, just diving in a little bit more deep. Now, when you were there with all your fellow servicemen, and you guys, it was time to eat. What kind of food did they have over there? Because I know now they have like these. They literally have like Burger Kings and stuff like that. They build literally like American cities on base and stuff. What was it like there?
I mean, if you went to the chow hall in the morning, you got eggs and you got sausage and pancakes if you wanted them. They had.
Oh wow.
They had. I'm not going to call them chefs,
right?
But guys that their MOS was cook.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
So every morning they would be in there, and they would be cooking and set it up on a counter, and you go in a line, and you just pick it up and tell them what you want. I want eggs, or I want sausage, or whatever. Lunch. So you could do whatever you wanted at lunch, just.
Gotcha. It's like a college mess hall. It's like
sure. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So it's like it's not like when you're actually out and you're opening those packages of food when you're during literally battling.
Oh, you mean sea rations?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Well, we had plenty of those. I mean, they don't call them sea rations anymore. They call them other things. But those were mostly for guys in the field.
Yeah.
And on special occasions, they would bring out these tall tins that would carry hot food in it and bring them out in 6x trucks, and they would feed them that, just like, I don't know, just to give them a break, from the cans.
Crazy. Wow. Yep. What kind of entertainment did they guys have for you guys over there? Because I know that, some of the famous USO or the United Service organizations, like, Bob Hope and stuff like that, they had, a lot of different people that would go over to that. I don't know if they went to your guys' place.
Never saw one USO show.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
Never. They never came there. I think it was because they didn't want to get rocketed,
Right.
But I'll tell you, the Philippines, they have bands over there that they can cover just about everything in the United States. They were really good. Unfortunately, we only spent like 3 days there,
Wow.
But when we got to Vietnam, on this air base, they had your quarters where you slept, but some guys would make a bar out of those. A little Quonset hut bar. And they would have a Vietnamese girl come in and sing or dance or whatever, and drinks were cheap. And
so you guys could drink over there, like on
yeah. We had a club.
Did it have to be like on your days off, or could you?
Well, you could go every night. It was an Air Force base.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you could go there every night if you wanted to.
Oh, okay. As long as you're back in the morning.
I kind of like the little bars because we could play cards, and I made a lot of money playing cards. Yeah.
So is that how did you play cards before that? I mean, or did you get?
No, not really.
Okay.
That's how I bought my stereo, though, my reel-to-reel, all my speakers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because you said you got that in Japan or something like that. Where'd you get?
When I went back to Japan, I took the money and blew it.
And that was back when they had stuff that the United States didn't even have at that point in time, right?
Yeah, we got all of our good equipment from Japan, Akai's and TX, and
So cool. Yeah. So now you mentioned some of the places that you went to. Did you guys ever travel to other places? Like, were you able to travel on your own, or was this strictly wherever you're going, that's where you're going to be for?
Yeah, we really never got off the base. I was, with this 1st Marine Air Wing, and these guys had to go out on bombing missions every single day, 2-3 of them in a day for each pilot. So, we had to pretty much stay nose to the grindstone on the radios and talking to the guys in the field, you know, in the Air Force and other pilots, and find out where the targets were and that sort of thing. And then we had to brief our pilots, and then they would go out and, you know, bomb the shit out of things. And so we really never had time to leave there. It was hot and heavy. We were trying to hold back the North Vietnamese while we got our troops out of there.
And that was you know, when were you over there officially? Like what years were you? It was like a
72.
72. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you make any friends with like the actual like South Vietnamese?
Oh yeah.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, they had a South Vietnamese Army and a South Vietnamese Air Force, and the Air Force was actually right on the base. So they had their own people, but their planes sucked. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was really,
yeah, I'm sure.
yeah, looking at our planes and looking at their planes was a different deal. But yeah, then they had what's that? Long Binh is an Army base, and Benoit is an Air Force base. So yeah, I'd meet soldiers from Long Binh, and I'd meet soldiers and the Air Force guys. They'd be walking around, you know, on our base. So
did they keep you guys separated, like as far as your units and stuff like that? Okay.
Yeah, we didn't live with those.
Gotcha. Okay. Right on. Now you mentioned that you did lose friends over there. You know, in combat. What do you remember? Like, I mean, how close were you with some of these guys? I mean, do you remember their names and stuff like that? I know that.
You remember that? You remember that thing you sent me?
Yeah.
And at the end of it, it had a lot of writing.
Yes.
If you go down that, and you'll see what I'm talking about, where it actually says that Air Force base was the hardest hit of any Air Force base during the Vietnam War. It also says things like, on August 1st, we got the beating of our lives, and that today, that was payday. I remember it just like it was yesterday.
Wow.
And we had a guy that was riding his bicycle. He just picked up a bunch of money for an orphanage, and he was riding his bicycle across the street from me, and rocket got him. And I got some friends up in Da Nang that I went and visited down in California. Like they had a lot of trouble too. You know, we all lost friends. I lost like 3.
Man, that's yikes. So what happens when do they just basically send them out after that, like on one of those, you know, B-52s or whatever, however they send those, you know, the deceased
their bodies?
Out? Yeah.
Oh. Did you ever watch Taking Chance?
No.
Never saw that movie with
so.
Kevin Bacon actually plays a Marine officer.
I mean, I might have seen it, but
it's a good movie. It's on demand. It's what happens from the time they receive a dead soldier or Marine. They all go to Dover, Delaware, to be processed. You know, they clean them up and put them in a casket, and then this officer takes them all the way to their home. It could be up in Montana. It could be anywhere, but they take them, never leave their body. They put them on airplanes and fly them, and they bring them off the plane, and everybody at the airport, you know, is all hold their heart. You know, everything stops when they bring the body off. So
crazy, man. Yeah. Well, at least they did that. I mean, the
kid that's driving the Kevin Bacon's character.
How old is he?
He's having a talk with this kid. He's like he's in the Army, and Kevin is escorting a Marine home, and he's the driver. And he says, so have you lost anybody? You know, do you have any brothers, or, you know, it's in the war and everything? He goes, yeah. He says, he's in the back. So this kid that he's taking his brother to Montana.
Wow.
He's driving the officer. So it's really a poignant movie.
Yikes. So is that like, what is that an older movie, or is that something?
I think it came out in the 90s, maybe late 80s, maybe 90s. Yeah.
You said Kevin Bacon was a kid.
Yeah, Kevin Bacon. He was great in it.
Anymore.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow. You mentioned that your dad was in the Navy, correct?
Yeah.
and his obituary says that he was a vet of both World War II and the Korean conflict.
Yeah, I don't know how much Korea he got, but he was definitely in World War II. And
Gotcha.
job I wouldn't want to have. How'd you like to be floating around in the ocean with a tanker full of oil?
It sounds like the worst possible job there is.
Yeah, I don't want to get hit. You don't want kamikazes coming in and crashing into that thing. I mean,
no, yeah, that's yikes, man. But yeah, so was your dad? Was he proud that you followed in his footsteps? Not necessarily in the Navy, but with the Marines.
When it all started, I tried to join the Navy because he was in the Navy.
Yeah,
did want to make him proud, right? But they didn't want me because I didn't graduate from high school. So they told me, go next door, they'll take you. So I went next door to the Marine Corps. I joined the Marine Corps. I got all signed up. I called my dad and I told him, and he said, don't worry, son, I'll get you out. It's like, wait a minute. No, I don't want to be out. He was adamant. I think he knew that what the Navy does and what the Marines do is totally different. And he knew that I was going to be in harm's way, and he was freaking out.
Yikes.
But was he proud? I'm sure he was.
Yeah. Yeah. It's better than someone asking what if your kid's in the military and he's like, actually, he ran up to Canada. So yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but no. Now, do you wish that I would have served in the military?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I did not want to sacrifice my two sons. I don't see any of these wars. I don't see Iraq. I don't see Afghanistan. I don't see any of them as doing any good for a country that don't want us there to start with. And they've been doing this for 500 years. They've been fighting each other, and we're not going to make a difference. So I would have just assumed we'd have stayed out of that. But no, I didn't want you or Andy to go in the military. I just have a total, I just don't like what they do.
I mean, I guess the closest thing we came to was, Bob Jones and his crew in 2-a-day practices. So,
well, I mean, when I first went in the Marines, I was John Wayne. I was ready to go, and I was ready to do things. And when I got back, I was like, I used to hunt. I stopped doing that. I don't shoot animals. But when I got back, I just thought, man, what was this all about? Vietnam. I didn't even find out till I went to, Green River and took that class, the history of the Vietnam War. And the professor was telling us all these things. I went, holy shit, this is the same things we want over here. They want over there. And I can't blame them.
That guy was like an award-winning professor too.
Yeah, he was good. He was a Southeast Asian history professor, and he was good.
What was his name? Do you remember?
Nigel Wilson.
Nigel Wilson.
Nigel Olson.
Wood or okay.
I think it was Wilson. I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I remember other people talking about that guy too. So, yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Nigel Adams.
Nigel Adams. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because isn't there an Adams Hall up there or something?
I don't know. Now your dad, so he actually passed away at the age of 64 in 1991.
I'm pretty sure it was 62, but
Was it 62?
I think so. I think he was just Social Security age.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess those are both kinds.
It might have been 63, but yeah, he had just gotten on Social Security.
Well, so how weird is that? You're almost 7 years older than he was when he passed away.
Yeah.
And he passed away like pretty suddenly, right? Like by a stroke or something, or what?
Yeah, he had an aneurysm in his head, and it just dropped him. Yeah, it was pretty weird. I mean, they just took him right from the house and put him on machines. That was it for him,
Good Lord. Was somebody with him when that happened, or what did they say?
No, he was actually on the phone to his girlfriend asking her, if they wanted to go have something to eat.
No way.
However, I think because my dad was always the kind of guy where if you said stand up or shut up, he thought you meant stand up. And he was in fights all the time. He didn't take shit from anybody. And he was in a big fight up in McCall or some damn place in a bar. And I think he had a blood clot in his head. That's where the aneurysm, I think, came in.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It depends on who you talk to. But yeah, he was by himself.
Oh, wow.
But he was on the phone with his girlfriend. Good thinking, because she, went right over her.
Wow. Yikes. So your rank, what was your rank in Vietnam? I mean, like, you're in the military?
I was a Sergeant E5.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your dad's? Do you know what your dad's rank
Dad
was?
was a machinist mate, first class, I think.
I guess that makes sense, because you said that after
He's something like an E4, E5, yeah.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. I never knew that. That makes a lot of sense, because after he got out of the military, you said that he did a lot of repair work and stuff like that, right? Didn't you say he did like a lot of
My dad?
Yeah. What did he? I don't know. I can't remember.
My dad
repaired everything
for 40 years was a sewing machine repairman and salesman. Sewing machines.
Yeah.
He was good at it, but he asked me one time, he says, do you want to learn the sewing machine business? And I know all he knew was mechanical, right?
Yeah.
Well, they went, I bet it wasn't 2-3 years later, they started making computer sewing machines.
Right.
That would have done him in.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have done me any good if I'd have learned everything from him.
That's like kind of like when I went to
technology.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to keep up with technology. That's like when I went to school for video, and it was all analog. And then like the year I graduated, everything was transitioning to digital. And then when I went to look for jobs, they're like, do you have digital experience? And I go, I do not. Can someone teach me?
When I went to Green River, all they had was records. And then when you went to Central, all they had was CDs.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Totally different. Now all they do is they just pull it up on their little laptop.
Oh yeah.
Just play it right off the laptop.
Yeah, and it literally has the mix machines where it like mixes the song. You don't even have to be there. You
just a babysitter now.
You literally don't even have to. When I was working at the station up at KBSG, I just would have to load the music, and sometimes I'd play like 40 minutes of a CD.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so fast. You take communications, and it changes the year you get out.
Yeah. Now, did your dad? Did he have a metal heart, or I'm sorry, a Purple Heart, or anything like that? He didn't get injured or anything, did he? Or
I think he did.
Oh, did he?
I think he was. They were talking about where one of his friends got killed. They were getting shelled on a beach. I don't know what the hell he was doing on the beach, but I think he did. I think he got nicked or something. I don't know. Doesn't take a lot to get. All you got to do is bleed.
Yeah, right.
To get a Purple Heart.
Yeah, I saw. I was reading. I don't know who it was that I was reading, but I was reading some guy that he was talking about how he has 2 Purple Hearts. One of them was legit. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Because something happened where like it was like some shrapnel hit his glasses, and his glasses like cut the top of the lid or something like that, and he got a Purple Heart for that.
Right. Yeah, I knew a guy that was riding in a Jeep, sat on a coat hanger, and punctured his butt. The Marines used to call them too dumb to duck ribbons.
That's wild. Did you ever get when you were going out drinking and stuff like that on the base or whatever, and you came home? Did you ever get in trouble with the military police? Did you have any run-ins with any of those guys?
Yeah, I did. I had a couple of episodes with the military police and the Japanese police.
Oh,
which is not good, because they'll beat the shit out of you they don't carry guns, they carry nightsticks.
Oh wow!
And if they catch you, I had our MPs threw us in a van one night just to keep us from getting our ass kicked by these Japanese police. But you go to the bars and you deal with the hookers and the girls that go, buy me a drink, and they bug you, like a dog wants a biscuit,
Sure.
And if you don't buy them a drink, they get really mad, So, and I wasn't into buying drinks for girls unless,
Yeah.
unless I was working on something, but
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
So you got like in trouble with some of these. I mean, it's not hard to get in trouble at a
I
bar.
got in a fight on in a Navy bar one night. A couple of me and my friends walked in, and the Navy guys tried to throw us out, tried to tell us that we couldn't be in their bar. And I said, "You don't own this bar." It's like, we just led to, we're all pretty full of testosterone at that
Sure.
time, and shit, man, we were not going to let the Navy tell us anything. So
It's got to be
they got those animosities between the services.
It's got to be the craziest too, because they always say like, what's the age range of people that are in prison? Just talking about prison.
Yeah.
So like, it's like what, like 16 to 26 or
Yeah.
something like that. And those are the people that committed like all the crimes. And then
Yeah.
that's the age of like, 18 to whatever in the military, and you're fighting people. So you're already on edge, and like, you're already just like, everybody's like acting tough. You just got out of,
Exactly.
and stuff like that. So it's got to be the worst. I'm sure there was just so many.
Well, I always tell people, when I first got out of boot camp, I could whip 5 guys.
Sure.
And then after I was in a year or two, it was 3 guys. And then after 4 years, it was like 1 guy, and I'd be lucky if I could do that. So, yeah.
Oh man. So, all right. So the last time we were on, you mentioned that you volunteered for the Marines by joining the Marines when you turned 18. Now, which is crazy, by the way. But I keep saying that just because of the time frame. Like 68, 69 is just the craziest. That time that war was like the peaking of that nutty war. And you joined, but you said that part of that was because your life was chaotic anyway. You're like, I'm just gonna join them.
Yeah, I didn't have nothing going on.
So now, what was your opinion? What was your opinion on those who were draft dodgers of that war? And is your view now different than it was back then?
Yes.
Yeah. I think you already.
Yeah, when you first get in the military, it's like people that run. That's just like running from a fight.
Yeah.
Which in your later years is a pretty smart thing to do.
Right.
But we didn't like them much, and there was a lot of draftees in the military, and you're in, like, you went to Vietnam, and then you told them, I joined, I volunteered to come over here, and they went, you volunteered to come over here?
Right.
You're like, what are you, nuts?
Yeah.
But apparently they were more
Those guys.
politically savvy than I was.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Idaho and Oregon, and I was a loner, and I
Hunting
didn't know
and
much
stuff.
about that kind of stuff, about politics and what's right and what's wrong. And
Right.
just like when we're going to talk about music, I'm going to tell that you sent me a big list of things, and most of those things were, what do I want to call them, protest songs.
Yeah.
Just every band made a protest song.
Right.
We didn't really listen to that when I was in Vietnam, and a lot of guys didn't. And so over here they were big. Over there they weren't so big.
Yeah.
Like one that fits everything, Eva's Destruction by Barry McGuire.
Yeah.
That goes on today. It's we're always on the eve of destruction in the United States. It's like, if any one thing, it's another. Climate change, or
Sure.
politics, or we're always like, look at the insurrection on the 6th, and it's crazy.
Right.
We're always, there's no good decade. They're all messed up.
Sure.
So we're always been on the eve of destruction. I used that song on my playlist. It's like the second song, the one right after. My first thing that I put on it is Sam Kinison in Back to School, when he was talking to Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah.
I was over there, and fighting it out with Charlie, and
Right.
But that's what I lead it with, and then I put the Eve of Destruction second, and because that's a fitting song, and then the third one is the Fish Cheer.
Right.
Everybody really liked the Fish Cheer, even though it was kind of a protest song.
Right.
But
Sure. Yeah.
it was a great song, and
Yeah. So like, it's funny. The reason I kind of bring that up is I don't, if you were a draft dodger back then, I mean,
You were into protest songs.
well, sure. But back then, I'm guessing half those people wouldn't even admit to being a draft dodger back then. Right.
Right.
I mean, like there was a guy that I worked with at, and he's like right around your age. Right. So I walked up to him and I go, were you ever in the war, like Vietnam or anything like that? And he looks at me and he goes, I was a draft dodger. And I go, whoa. I was like, I don't think anybody's ever said that, like, ever.
Out loud?
Yeah. I was like, I'm like, I like, my initial was to like look around. I was like, did you just say like you? And he's like, yeah, I was a draft dodger, man. He's like, I wasn't going to that war.
Did you ever remember watching that episode with All in the Family where, Archie Bunker was having dinner with this guy and he found out his son was a draft dodger?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And at the end of the argument, he said, well, at least your son's alive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that showed me.
So,
great.
I've seen documentaries of guys that went up to Canada. Now they're like 50, 60 years old and or 70 years old.
Yeah.
Saying, I just thought I'd go up there and hang out for 2 or 3 years till this all blew over and then I'd just go back home. Well, getting back home wasn't that easy.
Right.
Coming back into the United States as a draft dodger, it was people don't like it much.
No, and I saw this. There was according to a Gallup poll taken in the year 2000, so 21 years ago, 70% of Americans believe that sending U.S. troops to Vietnam was a mistake. So, looking back at that now, do you feel that Vietnam was a mistake? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, look at what just happened in Kabul.
Yeah.
Right.
America,
and they tried to. Yeah. I mean, they quit. We said we just quit, and look at all the people they left over there that helped them. They did the same thing in Vietnam. All these people worked for the Americans. They just signed their death warrant, just leaving them there willy-nilly and coming home and just pulling out. It really irritates me. They did the same thing to the people in Afghanistan.
Well, I saw a documentary on, I think it was like Netflix, and they were talking about, they're really breaking down that war, the Afghanistan war, the war in Afghanistan. And they were talking about how they flat out, like they were talking about the generals, and they were like, what's the strategy? What is our end game? And they're like, we don't know. Like, there should be some sort of end game when you're going over and people are, dying.
Don't you think?
A war, right? But I think Vietnam's kind of like that because, like, it was ultimately
and the politicians will say, oh, it was nothing like Vietnam. And then you look at the end of that war, and it is exactly like Vietnam.
Right.
They deny.
It's always a big mess leaving.
They deny. Yeah, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. They don't even know where the tunnel is. They just get involved. It makes a lot of money for a lot of people, contractors and DOD, contractors and people that make tanks and guns and bullets, and they get filthy rich. And then all of a sudden they go, well, I think we've made enough money. Let's get out.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, some of the
war is good for business, is what they say.
Yeah, exactly. Contractors and and the yeah. So we're gonna get into the music here, but I just have a couple more questions here. So I know that some of the men who served, they've traveled back to the areas that they served over in Vietnam, did you see that John McCain documentary? He actually went back to where he was actually captain, stuff like that. And I'm like, wow. And he's like, and he's so gracious. There's people that they really get it. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, it was messed up. They didn't want to be in war. We didn't want to be in war either, but our countries told us to go to war. And here he is over there. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Seeing these people that go back and have you ever had have you ever wanted to go back and visit where you were or see the places now
Well, you'd always like to see them. I don't even know if that base is there anymore, but I'll tell you a story about, what manner of man you have in a war. There was these, there was a big skirmish going on between South Vietnamese Americans and the North Vietnamese. And they were having this huge firefight, and they had a lot of casualties. And there was these 3 helicopter pilots. They were from Benoit, and they were all coming from different directions to come back and land their choppers, right? Everything would have been just hunky-dory, but they got this call on the radio and said there's this huge fight going on, and they're losing, right? So we need to get our guys out. These 3 helicopter pilots went to this area, and one was a medevac chopper and the other 2 were gunships. And but they're all Hueys, you know what I mean? They're CH-30s.
Yeah.
And they went into where the fight was, and there was no LZ, which is a landing zone, nowhere for them to land. This one helicopter went down, and he said, "Man, we got to get on the ground so we can get some guys out of here." And it was all bamboo around it, and they went down and very carefully, because it doesn't take a lot to bring down a helicopter. They carefully came down, and I think it was one of the gunships came down and used the rotor to cut the bamboo.
Wow.
Go lower, slowly.
That's crazy.
So it didn't bust up their props, and got an LZ, and all you could do was just go up, straight up and down. You couldn't come flying in from the side. You had to go right over it and come down. They could put like 25 people on their ships, fly them out. Those guys returned 3 times.
Wow.
To get those people. And they couldn't get in the last time, because the more of our guys you took out, the more hazard it was for the guys that were still there, because the NVA were still pushing on them. So we got less guys. They got the same amount of guys. And these 3 helicopter pilots, because I saw them there, there were 3 guys that went back, and they were all old men. They all talking about that day, and it makes me shake my head.
That's wild. That's really
Who
crazy.
would do that?
Nah, I don't know,
Who
man.
would do that?
Yeah, those guys are crazy,
They're
man.
pulling up out of there, and they're getting shot at. You
Yeah.
know? And they go back 3 times, each one of them. That's nuts, man.
That's beyond nuts. It's crazy.
That's why when they go by in the parade here, I give them the hoorah.
Yeah. So I was gonna talk about that. So they're
cowboys, man. They're studs.
The Veterans Day Parade in Auburn. I didn't know this, that it's actually the largest parade of its kind west of the Mississippi. Did you know that?
I know it's the largest in Washington State. I don't know about the rest of them.
That's what I read on their website.
It's possible. It's huge.
Yeah. Over 5,500 people participate in that parade each year. And you'd think it'd be like California or something, or at least I would. But no, I guess that's coming up in a few weeks here. So I always know the time of year that parade comes around, because it is just freezing rain. It's like terrible weather,
and it's packed.
Yeah, it's packed. It's packed as hell. There's like
people are out there. They're packed. Yeah,
it's awesome. So, but yeah, no, you're always down there. Now, how many times does that traveling wall come through? I don't know for sure. I think it's maybe been here 3 times. I don't know for sure. Gotcha. Okay, I remember the first time it came.
It's a sight to see, though.
Yeah. Like 2000, I want to say 2003, 2004, or something like that.
Right.
I went down there with you. And and you found a guy or two. I think you found a couple of your guys.
Yeah, I did. I thought I found one for sure, but Mom and I were going over the names, because that other thing you sent had a lot of pictures and names, and even though the picture looked like him, and his name is Yazzie, which is there's a lot of Navajos named Yazzie, and but it wasn't him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know that I lost anybody out of my platoon.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's wow.
When I say my platoon, not in Vietnam, but in
Yeah.
boot camp. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a sight to see all those names. Like it really, that makes you really put things in perspective when you see all those names together, and those are the names that they didn't come back.
Yeah.
They come back.
I the guys that I hadn't seen them in 50 years, and I went down to California, and the two guys that was platoon leaders or squad leaders, are right, the first guy in the squad, right? And you're in charge of your whole line. Was me and one other guy, and then there were, that I met. And then there was two that we couldn't find. There's also a guide for the platoon. He's the guy in front with the dress blues, and he's got the flag and shit.
Yeah.
And he's the guide. Then the platoon leaders, and then everybody else. And it's amazing that we found each other.
How did you guys find each other?
Three of us. Well, one of them he's on some Marine website, and he saw my name. I don't know why. I don't really belong to any, but he did see it, and he called me on the phone just out of the blue.
No way.
And asked me, "Are you the Lee Matlock that was in platoon 3096 in San Diego?" And
wow.
it blew my top.
No way.
I couldn't even believe it.
That is
Ruben Reibel is his name, and he lives down in that's that town right next to Carmel. Starts with an M.
Monterey?
Yeah, Monterey.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's in Monterey. And he said, "You got to come down, man, and see us." And he says, and I said, "Well, who's us?" And he said, Richard lives in Redding. And I said, "Holy crap, Richard, or the guide, Richard Klein?" And he said, "Yeah." And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, man. And
that's cool.
So yeah, I went down, saw those guys, and it was crazy.
That's amazing. Wow.
We're all old men now.
Yeah. Did they have any pictures or anything like that? Or from back in that? Yeah. Because
I took some, down there, and they had some, and one of them had a coffee cup with the front of our platoon, and you can see me and him, me and Ruben, and then the two guys we couldn't find, and then you see the guide, and so he put it on a coffee cup for me.
That's awesome.
And I've got it here on my Marine stand here, so it's pretty cool. You'll see it.
That's cool.
I'll send you a picture of it.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely do that. All right. So now there were a lot of songs about Vietnam that already came out before you joined the service. And you mentioned that, you weren't really into you didn't know the politics of the war and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You got hunting and stuff like that in Idaho,
right.
Or whatever. But do you have any thoughts on those songs, or like before you joined the Marines? Now, did you? Because like there's a couple of songs that were huge hits that were like kind of like the Battle of the Green Berets, or the Okie from Muskogee.
It's an Army song, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So like well, you like those songs, or
for instance, because I've made a list.
Yeah.
Let's take Creedence Clearwater, "Fortunate Son."
Uh-huh.
That didn't even ring a bell with me when it came out. I didn't even really listen to what the lyrics were, but I sure liked the song.
Right.
Now it means a lot. It's being a politician's son, or some white collar guy that has a son. He ain't going to war. They're not going to let them put him into a war, and that's what that song's about. I'm no fortunate son.
Yeah.
I got to go. Right?
Yeah. Money does. It's bigger than a lot of people.
Because these songs, when they hit you, like in Vietnam, it's like a buzzword. You know what I mean? Like if somebody gives you a buzzword, and that reminds me of something. Nowhere to Run. That's a buzzword, man. In the beginning of that song, everybody loves it. Everybody that's in combat loves it because it's true. There's nowhere to run.
Now, Dad, did you guys listen to the radio out there? Did they have, because I know.
Oh, we had AFEN, yeah, Armed Forces, or AFN, Armed Forces Network.
So that's kind of like the Good Morning Vietnam kind of deal,
exactly.
right? So now, did they, I'm sure it was heavily regulated. I'm sure they're not playing a lot of protest music over there, but
no.
But are there songs that they played that you heard while you, I mean, of course there are, but like, were there songs, like you said, like Nowhere to Run?
Uh-huh.
Were there songs that you heard when you were over there that kind of like, when you hear it today still, you're like, oh man, I was like in Vietnam when I heard this song for the first time. Are there songs like that? That's
what I'm talking about, a buzz song.
Okay.
Yeah, it will put you there in a second.
Yeah, I just love the music. Yeah.
Sympathy for the Devil is another one.
Say that there? Wasn't that like kind of
just like the beginning of it?
Yeah,
does it to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
All Along the Watchtower.
Great song. You know what's
Jimi
funny
Hendrix.
is All Along the Watchtower. I was reading about that, and it's funny because that song was written by Bob Dylan. Everybody knows that it's written by Bob Dylan. So one of the most famous covers of all time because
right.
I was playing that song for somebody the other day and I go, do you know the song? They're like, I recognize that song. And I go, oh, well, just wait. And then you put on the Jimi Hendrix song and they're like, holy crap.
Yeah, and exactly.
It is that mind blowing. I mean, Dylan himself, described his reaction to hearing that song.
He said, I should just throw mine out.
Oh, he did. He goes, here's what he said. His quote says, it overwhelmed me.
Yeah.
It was, he had such talent that he could find stuff inside of a song, and he found things that other people wouldn't think of even finding there. And the way that he made that song into like, I mean, he said that he took license with that song from his version, and he continues to do that song the way Jimi Hendrix did after that. It's like kind of like he's just like, that's that dude. I wrote the song, but that's Jimi Hendrix. That's a Jimi Hendrix song. That's how good that is.
You know, another prolific writer really for these Vietnam songs was Creedence Clearwater.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Run Through the Jungle.
Yep.
It's one of them songs that as soon as you hear it come on, it takes you right back.
Yeah. And they were, during that era, is funny because they were like the most, between, I think it was like 68 and 70, I think. Right. They were like the biggest, they were the most popular band in the United States. They were just pumping out, like just. Like
you said, the two luckiest guys in the world were the two guys that played with him, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Stuart Sutcliffe and. Yeah. So, or Stuart Sutcliffe, not Stuart Sutcliffe, but Stu Cook or whatever. So that song too, that was a AA single. Up Around the Bend was like the big one, but I heard Tom Fogerty, his brother.
Yeah.
He said that was like his favorite all-time song that they ever did. And, but yeah, I think that, Fogerty said like in a 2016 interview that, he wrote that song kind of like as a, it was kind of like I don't know if it was like an anti-gun or like gun awareness song, because there were so many guns. He read that, you know, there's like in the song, he says it's like 2 million guns are loaded. Mm-hmm. And not that anyone else has the answer, but to the question, but he just questioned that he thought it was disturbing that it was, you know, just a jungle of the citizens of the United States just walk around in our own country, and there's so many guns. Like there's like how many guns for like a single person? Like but you know, it became like a big war song. So, you know, like for the Vietnam War. So, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Run through the jungle. I mean, that's what Vietnam was like, in the jungle.
Yeah, I think people have to be crazy. Think they can come in here and take over the United States because every household has 5 or 6 guns in it. You know, so.
Yep, I don't think that's happening.
another buzz song. When I hear it, Paint It Black, all I see is 15 helicopters taking off. Right?
Yeah. Paint It Black, man. That's great. That's used in so many like war movies and what is the opening to, what was that show?
A bunch of
Tour Duty, right? Tour Duty.
You mean was it like We Were Soldiers?
No, the TV show Tour of Duty. Remember that?
Tour of Duty. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's the opening for that. Yeah. Yeah, and that there's like I think there's been over 400 cover versions of that song, and the lyrics refer to grief and loss, making it a perfect Vietnam song. It hit #1 on the charts.
Yeah, well, you know, like I said, these songs that hit you the hardest. One of them is "Bad Moon Rising," and it's like everybody felt like that every morning. You know, I feel like bad moon. It's going to be a bad moon rising. You know, like we're going to get attacked or something's going to happen. Yeah,
that makes sense. All those songs like that would make sense that you guys cling on to those. You know, Nowhere to Run, Bad Moon Rising.
Another one. It really doesn't have anything to do with Vietnam, but it seems to have been adopted. Soul Kitchen.
Oh.
Right. Dun, 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 you know, so it's like it just does it right away.
I think that was that. What I think it was similar song to that. There was a song that I took the history of Vietnam from a different professor. It wasn't the same one that you have, and he showed this. I'm still looking for it. I'm still looking for it on YouTube. But it started off with "When the Music's Over," kind of like that same similar. And then it builds up and I just remember it's like the documentary or whatever he was showing us, and it was just building up, and then it was just getting crazier and crazier, like all the chaos of like the 60s and everything, and then all of a sudden like they just show like these helicopters and then like there's explosions and stuff like that, and then that's when Jim Morrison goes
yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, like it gives me like chills, like just thinking about how powerful that was. And I'm like, man, I still can't find that.
Watch all the napalm hitting the ground.
Oh, it's just insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. Yeah. Yeah. So do you have, now are you just going over kind of like your buzz songs here? Do you
my playlist is a lot of buzz songs. In fact, I tried to find every one I could. A buzz song here that has nothing to do with Vietnam, but it's still one of the buzz songs.
Okay.
We got to get out of this place.
Yeah.
You know,
that song is
the Animals.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that song was. I was reading that song was actually, how weird is this? It's just the strangest fact of the day here. That was intended for the Righteous Brothers. Yeah, because it was written by.
It's really about a guy and a girl in a town that they need to get out of.
Right, yeah, and it was and they turned it down, I guess, like because they were, I don't know why, they're just whatever.
Yeah.
And then, you know, how perfect was it that it was given to you know, gritty Eric Burden of the Animals, and man, that like I can't even. Just a perfect song for that group. They were amazing.
Eric Burden. Do you know what a sky pilot is?
Yes, because I grew up with Lee Matlock.
Yeah, you know, he's the priest that talks to the guys before they go on a patrol.
Yeah.
Or a pilot that goes out.
Did you see any of those guys like when you were
a sky pilot?
Or
I tried to avoid them.
Well,
yeah. Basically, they were Catholics, you know, priests, but
yeah,
they had other holy men but they all did the same thing, tried to comfort the guys before they went out to get dead.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then of course, He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother.
Yeah, I was going to bring that one up also because that one has been adapted as a like kind of like a Vietnam song, but it really isn't about Vietnam.
I know.
But
I know.
It could easily be.
It easily matches right up, and they usually show the collages of soldiers carrying around wounded soldiers. You know, they do that all the time. But yeah, it's been adopted as that.
It's interesting, all these songs like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, back in the United States, guys like Marvin Gaye, What's Going On?
Yeah, so good.
That's when they started to put pressure on the politicians. That's really one of the first songs I got For What It's Worth. I used to think For What It's Worth should have been up at the top of the playlist, but no, it was really that song at that time is what pressured Nixon to do something. Just do something, you know, anything.
It's funny because that song too is also a song that is
probably about college campuses.
Well, I guess it was like some riot that happened on like the Sunset Strip or something like that, because that's where
Kent State.
Yeah, that's where all those guys came out. No, it was before that because that was the Kent State one was the Ohio, which
yeah, right. That's one of them. Yeah,
because that one came out in like December of '66 or something like that. Yeah. So that was way before.
Which was a travesty. You know, when you got to start shooting your own people down, then something got to be done. You know. Here it is. Stephen Stills. He wrote that about there was like the Sunset Riots in 1966 in California. Yeah.
And that by far, probably more than any other song, has become a Vietnam era song.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how many, almost everything you see of like the Vietnam era has that song playing. And it really, it can be about Vietnam, but it's not really, but it's definitely been adopted as one.
You know, and I can't go without saying about, you ever heard of Dave Van Ronk?
Dave Van Ronk. I'm not sure.
He wrote Luang Prabang, and Luang Prabang is a song. It's a province in Cambodia. It's really kind of a off to the side kind of a thing, you know, but great song. You'll have to write it down, look him up.
Definitely will.
Check him out. You know, he starts his song like, when I got back from Luang Prabang, I didn't have nothing where my balls used to hang. That's the song that just, it's awesome. And, you know, it says fighting for Christian democracy. Now I'm a fucking hero, you know, so it's just a great song.
Wow.
And then when people started to come home, Sam Stone.
Yeah.
Sam Stone's
I was listening to that song today. I was like, I know I've heard this before. I know you've played that for me, but the lyrics in that one are, I mean, they're straight up. He just tells the story.
I remember when I left Vietnam, if you were strung out on heroin, you couldn't leave till you got unstrung. They wouldn't let you out. So that must have been tough for a lot of guys.
Oh, that's crazy.
And then a lot of guys found solace in heroin when they got back. So,
yeah,
you know,
that was a massive problem over there, wasn't it? Like,
yeah, I mean, when you can buy a vial of heroin that's I don't know, inch tall for $5, what do you think? But that's you know, that was supplied by Vietnamese because North Vietnamese, because they wanted us all messed up, you know, be easier to handle.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so they spread that out as much as they could.
Wow.
And song by Donovan, The Universal Soldier, talking about, doesn't matter what country you live in, the Universal Soldier is the one that does all the dirty work.
Right.
And they all think they're doing it for their country, and it's a good thing, you know. So, yeah, it's a good song.
Yeah.
And Find the Cost of Freedom.
Oh, that's so good. Like that. See, that's the B-side of Ohio, which, God, talk about the story of Ohio to me, first off, is a crazy story because I was reading up on a little bit about this too. Neil Young said he saw photos of an incident on, what was it, in Life magazine, and it was they literally he was like taken back, and he was just like, I can't believe they're like, this is going on. Like it was like I'm guessing it was the Kent State stuff, and he was just he said he wrote that song like so fast, and then basically called the guys. And I've heard all those guys like in interviews, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. I've heard them all like talk about this. They're like, basically, we need to find a studio right now.
Yeah, I got this in my head.
And they literally released that song like, I think it was like 10 days or something like that, or something crazy that they released it, like, which is really unheard of when you think about that, because they recorded that song. When you hear that, it was recorded live. That's amazing. That sounds
well,
good.
I think about Kent State. The National Guard will say, well, they were throwing rocks at us, we had to shoot. I said, no, diffuse it. You guys, you National Guard guys, go away. Just go away. And they wouldn't have had a problem. It was just, a pissing match is what it was. And it just got way out of hand.
Yeah. Yeah. So
kind of like Lieutenant Calley and, when they massacred all those Vietnamese. It's like, who gave the order to do this? And nobody's answering shit,
Oh, that's gross. That's a horrible story.
Yeah.
But yeah, the B side of Ohio is Find the Cost of Freedom, which is a Still song. And, growing up in our household, Stephen Still, I say this to everybody, Stephen Stills is got to be one of the most underrated musicians.
He's got it, hasn't he?
Artists of all time.
He really does have
people don't talk about Stephen Stills, and that guy is like a genius. He was an amazing guitar player.
And who's got one of his guitar picks?
Oh yeah. That was funny. The fact that I credit, so we went to Stephen Stills, I don't know what year that was, 2000.
A long time ago.
Yeah. And we saw him at it's either the Moore Theater or it was the Moore Theater.
The one you had to stand up all the time.
Yeah. And you're like, God, I need to sit down. I mean, this is great and everything, but Jesus.
They make you go to a standing place only, and it's full of 65-year-olds. I was like, this is pretty smart.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it was cool that like you're right next to the stage and everything. I mean, we were right there. But yeah, you're like, man, I need to sit somewhere? Can I sit somewhere? No, but the fact that I wore flip-flops that day was huge.
You credit that, huh?
Yes, because he was like playing, I think he was playing Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, and he was like, he was playing guitar, and he flips and I was like, dude, that came like, I mean,
that hit me in the head.
That came like right at me. I mean, and you can't see anything, but then maybe like a second later, I feel it.
You were gone. You were on the ground.
It hit the top of my foot, and I go, dude, that's that. And I go, just a second. And I was like, I can't believe it.
Yeah, that's a pretty nice keepsake.
Yeah, right.
Not only was he playing one of his best songs,
right,
you got the pick he played it with.
Exactly. It was cool. Yeah, so that was cool. But yeah. So did you start your list here, or are you just naming off all your songs here, or what?
Those were just my songs. I didn't even do movies. I mean, I did them, and they're here, but.
So I want to talk about some of the other songs here on that. There's like there's a huge list of songs here, but you mentioned the Country Joe and the Fish, Run Through the Jungle. Now, the song I mentioned this before, but it's just too funny not to like the Okie from Muskogee by Merle Haggard. It's funny because like Merle Haggard became kind of like an outlaw, but like later in like the 70s and stuff like that. But in I was reading like in the late 60s, there was nobody bigger in country than Merle Haggard.
Yeah.
And Merle Haggard, he was kind of like,
yeah, that's definitely a redneck song.
He's kind of annoyed with the hippies, the hippie movement, which is, it's easy to do. You see like these, the dirty, hippies are all just like, there's people like dying in the war. I could see both sides very easily. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that Vietnam documentary that came out a couple years ago, that Ken Burns one, they really pointed all that stuff out very well, because you got these guys that are over there, they're like, they're dying and stuff like that. And then you have these hippies, like, just taking drugs and listening to music and, dude, man, like, fuck the war. And, it's like, I would be pissed if I was like one of these guys that were like, from Idaho.
Yeah, middle America. Yeah,
exactly. So I get it, but it's just kind of funny. I'm just like, the lyrics in that song they're pretty.
I see Merle and Willie in a studio singing "The World's Going to Pot." You remember that song? And they're passing a joint. So there's Merle Haggard passing a joint to Willie.
Right. Yeah, no,
Smoking
later
weed.
he became one of the outlaws, one of the,
Yes.
but that song I get. Yeah.
You saw the light.
Yeah. Yeah. All those guys, when they started growing their beards out and growing their long hair and stuff like that. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's like, what we're missing a couple here.
Song I was thinking of too. Oh, come on.
There's the song. I know that there's another song that I think I saw on your list was The Letter by the Box Tops.
Yeah. That, I used to sing that in karaoke all the time.
You're very good at singing that song. I think I have you on film.
I really didn't really correlate it to guys writing their girls at home,
Yeah.
And so I didn't think about it like that. I just thought it was a guy writing a girl letter, but they kind of adopted that one too.
Yeah, definitely, because I think that he is talking about like that kind of thing where he's a lot of these are kind of like someone talking about like The Doors, The End, another song that was played in a big movie, Apocalypse Now. But this was interesting. So Jim Morrison originally wrote the song "The End." This is the end. He wrote that about his breakup with his girlfriend. So, which and in Apocalypse Now, I heard that I was reading that they used a different mix. They literally used a different mix of that song for the movie, because in the original song they kind of like. They muddy up they drowned out his vocals, and he's like swearing and stuff like that. And so you used a different mix specifically in that movie where they turn his vocals up and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of fascinating.
Another one, "Who'll Stop the Rain," was a good song, and I just found a cut. Willie Nelson and his daughter redid that. It's a very good song. If you haven't heard it, you should listen to that.
Wow, that version.
Yeah, same version.
Wow.
It's Willie and his daughter. She's all grown up, and
that's crazy.
They did a duet. Yeah.
Love Willie. I love all these like these guys known for like basically essentially being like potheads now. Like they're all like the biggest heroes. Everyone loves them. I mean,
I know.
You have like Snoop Dogg hanging out with like Martha Stewart, like,
passing out beer on the beach.
Even like these old rapper guys, they're like, Willie, dude, you don't even mess with Willie. Like he'll outsmoke you. Like you don't even want to mess with Willie.
Yeah.
But I always think that's kind of funny because like these guys back in the day, they're kind of like they're that old hippie. Now they're like beloved, like people that Chom.
Mom was asked her. We were talking about the other day because Mom brought that up about Snoop. She goes, "He's gonna host this. What the hell? How did he get to be this big?"
Yeah,
he's the man.
Snoop Dogg. Snoop Doggy Dogg. Yeah, and then you have the. This one was kind of an interesting one too. Edwin Starr.
That irritates me. It's a great song and it has great lyrics, but the way he does it just kind of irritates me. But it's true. Who needs it? What good is it?
Yeah, no, but the interesting thing that I found about that song was, did you know that this song was first recorded and released by the Temptations? It's weird. I actually listened to that version and it's way different. I mean,
is it better?
See the production, it's better like produced with Edwin Starr and everything. You could tell it's like it's more grandiose and stuff like that. So maybe you might like the other one better.
Kind of like Richie Havens. Freedom.
Yeah, right. Edwin Starr is kind of like a little over the top, and he was like, "Whoa!" like, so maybe you would like the Temptations one better. First off, because you probably like the Temptations better.
I do.
Yeah. So, so that was on an album in March of 1970, and then Edwin Starr released his in June of 1970. And so fans across the country, they wanted that version. They wanted the Temptations version to be released as a single, and the record company's like, we don't, the Temptations, that's our baby. We ain't releasing that. So I mean, they released it on an album, like as an album track, but they're like, we're not releasing that as a full on single to the masses. We don't want that to bring that kind of attention to this band. So that's when they had Edwin Starr, like he re-released.
When I'm listening to Good Morning Vietnam, and they talk to that what's his name, Bob Kramer, when Robin says, hey, Bob, can we play you anything? And he said, no, what where are you at, Bob? He said, oh, I'm in artillery.
Yeah.
He said, can we play you a song? And he says, yeah, play it. You just play it loud.
Play it loud. Yeah.
Because all these guys in artillery, they're all deaf now.
Like, yeah, exactly.
They're all deaf.
Yeah. Did you I don't think you suffered like a lot of hearing loss from any of that kind of stuff, did you?
No, man, I was with the wing. We used to wear headphones, the jets can get real loud, so you have to put some headsets on and try to knock that shit out, because we would definitely make you deaf.
Yeah, that's wild. Now there's a bunch of post Vietnam era songs. There's a couple that stick out as far as ones that I remember you playing back in the day. One of them was the Paul Hardcastle one, 19. Yeah. And I think that
that's so strange, because Paul is a jazz guy. He plays smooth jazz.
Yeah, and it was
he comes out with 19, and I was like, that's awesome,
That's crazy. Yeah, no, but the most fascinating thing, well, I read that they said that later they were like, the average age actually wasn't 19. It was technically like 21 or something, whatever. It's still young, but whatever. I can't remember what the age was. But the most fascinating thing about that
tomatoes.
Yeah, right. It was young. It wasn't like World War II. I don't know what World War II's average age was, but there was a documentary called Vietnam Requiem that came out in 1982. And in the documentary, it was voiced by a guy named Peter Thomas. And Peter Thomas, I remember later hearing this, that guy's voice on something. And I was like, how come that guy's voice sounds so familiar? And it was, it's that TV show. I love this TV show. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, but it's that crime television show, Forensic Files.
Yeah.
And he's the voice of Forensic Files, right? And I was like, oh my God, he did the 19 song. Like he's the guy.
He's the narrator.
Yep. He's the guy that.
Oh, you mean the guy that does it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, 19.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the guy that they sampled his voice from that documentary, and took his voice. And I was like, whoa. But yeah, that guy, he like died in his 90s or something like that. So God, what a voice that guy had. Another one I definitely want to point out is Treetop Flyer.
Yeah. The one by Stephen Stills.
Yes. And
that's a smuggler.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
He's a drug runner.
Yeah. So I love that, because did you ever hear him telling that story?
Well, it fits, but
did you?
Treetop Flyer, they're like I said, they're cowboys, man. They're nuts.
So here, check this out. So, so that song was actually recorded in 1968. He recorded that, but it wasn't released. It was supposed to be, I'm guessing it was to maybe be on that first album of theirs, that big, 1969 album.
Sure.
And they would record it like, they would play it in concert, like in the 80s and stuff like that. And he later released the acoustic version in 1991 on the album Stills Alone.
Good album.
Yeah, but they released in 2007. They found all these old tapes and they released all those like demos from 1968 that he had recorded for that first album. Basically, he was the genius on that first album. Like basically, those guys had like some songs and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, let me construct like full songs. And like, he was like playing like all the instruments and stuff like that. They're like, holy crap. So like when they were to go on tours, that's when he was like, we need to get like someone that could play guitar. Let's get Neil Young. So, but anyway, basically he kind of he gives like the story behind that song before. And he's kind of like talking about that, exactly what that is. Like basically all these guys went to Vietnam. They were trained to like fly like crazy missions. And then after Vietnam, we're like, we don't really have a lot of, that's what we were trained to do. And we were really good at it. So basically that's kind of like what he was talking about in that song. And that song is fantastic. So
yeah, kind of like that. Did you see the Pacific? With
Pacific.
the Marines in the Pacific? Did you ever watch that? It was like a 10-part, like Band of Brothers.
Yes.
And when he got out of the war, and he was at the unemployment office, and he was looking for a job, and the lady goes, "Can you do this?" And he goes, "No." "Do you know anything about this?" And he goes, "No." She goes, "Didn't the Marines teach you anything?" He said, "Yeah, they taught me how to kill Japs, and I was pretty goddamn good at it too."
Yeah. Oh God.
She just like freaked out,
Yeah. Hey, well, you asked. So there you go.
Yeah. I was gonna just throw in these movies that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Or my favorite movies. My top pick would be Full Metal Jacket, of course, because of the first half.
God, so good.
And if they put that and then showed the second half of Hamburger Hill, that would have been a good movie.
So combine those two.
But both of them in their entirety, they're not good.
Yeah.
But anybody that's been in the Marine Corps and they saw Full Metal Jacket, made their hair stand up because of the boot camp sequence in the beginning.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But if they'd taken all those guys in that movie and moved them to Hamburger Hill, and it was just that's why it's called Hamburger. It just got them chopped up,
Jeez.
We Were Soldiers Once and Young, even though it's Army, it's a great movie.
Right. Isn't that the one with that's the one with Mel
Gibson?
Yeah. Right.
Ken Burns goes without saying. The guy is a genius. Just what a documentarian.
I've seen that a couple times, and it's just, man, it's heavy.
And just entertainment, man. The Park Is Mine and First Blood were just,
I love that.
I love those movies.
Me, you, Andy, Sean Greenfield, and Lee Olson. We're like the only people I know that even know of that movie, because it was like
The Park Is Mine.
What's funny is because there's a reason why too, because that movie was a made for HBO movie. It only aired on HBO in the 80s, like in the mid 80s or whatever. And it was a Canadian production, which I didn't realize at the time. But man, that's
for a lot of guys, they felt like that. It's like, what the hell am I supposed to do now? I don't know what to do.
Yeah, no. What's his name? Tommy Lee Jones is awesome in that movie. That movie's crazy.
He's awesome in every movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And,
that's my list.
And what about there's parts of other movies too that are like insane, like when the colonel comes up to the sheriff in First Blood. He's like, make sure you have a good supply of body bags.
Yeah. I did like The Boys in Company C too.
Yeah. Yep. And of course, Good Morning Vietnam, as we mentioned, just for Robin Williams. But I was reading about Adrian Cronauer. He's like, there's so much of that movie that never happened. He's like, I'm not teaching these guys how to swear and stuff like that.
By the way, you can look up on YouTube, Adrian Cronauer.
Yeah.
And you can watch him carry that Good Morning Vietnam.
Oh, really?
You can watch him do that, and you will not believe it.
You will
not believe it.
Oh, definitely have to check that out.
He just died not too long ago, but You got to watch that. Just pull him up on YouTube, say Adrian Cronauer, and you'll see this part where he's doing this, showing how he went on the radio.
Yeah.
And he does that, and it's like, wow.
Oh,
The guy had lungs in his 70s, 80s.
Wow.
He had lungs that could carry that out. It was just amazing. It must be great. I don't know. It must be like a minute, 2 minutes.
Really? Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Wow.
But he was a good source of entertainment for those guys.
Yeah, I bet. And he wasn't even there.
He was there before I was. So.
Yeah, he wasn't there that long either. I guess he was like there for like a year or two or something like that. But yeah.
It's great OJT for anybody in radio, though, man. If you could have got on AFN, Armed Forces Network.
Yeah, it'd have been a nice gig, huh?
Yeah.
All right, Dad. Well, I know you got to eat, and I got
other things.
Yeah, I have stuff I need to do here too. But it was awesome reminiscing with you about some of these old songs and everything like that. And I'm going to put up a playlist of some of these songs that we're talking about, and probably more too, so people can check them out. So check out the playlist. If you like what you listen to, go ahead, subscribe, and we'll talk to you later.
Okay, bud.
All right.
Good talking to you.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends podcast. If you have any questions or comments about today's show, feel free to leave a message in the comment section below. If you enjoy listening to the podcast, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow the show. And check out some of the video clips posted on YouTube and Facebook. I'm Josh, and thank you for being a friend.